Investing in victory means playing the long game. Sun Tzu,
Sure.
The Art of War.
Familiar.
Wait a minute.
I read this whole book.
Didn't Topaz say that?
Ain't this? I heard this song for some other shit. Who plays that? Oh, yeah, it's Giga, no? Yeah, I remember this.
All right. What's the #1 goal of any game company?
Make money.
Depending on who you ask, the answer may be different. A developer might say it's to create the best game they can.
Nah, hell
On the
no.
other hand, a consumer might say that the company just wants to make as much money as possible,
True.
depending on how they feel about the game itself.
Yep.
If you're one of the 2 people left on the planet that still think any of these companies have goodwill, maybe you'd say it's a mix of both. Gotcha?
Yeah, when Doro and Ziox react to that, they're going to say, well, they just really want to make a fun game that's fun for everyone because the game companies are great. Anybody who thinks otherwise is greedy and stupid. Okay, maybe Mr. Pokey too.
Games, though, they're different because they actually have 3 goals, all of which are connected and all of which are of equal importance. Let's go in order here and talk about step 1. The first goal of a gacha game is to get you in the door. There's a variety of ways they can go about doing this, especially in the current post-Genshin gacha landscape. Some might try to just go with the basics and offer a really compelling story.
Now, all they got to do is say if you play the game on launch, you get a 5-star selector, but it only lasts 1 week. That's how you get everybody in the door.
Might try to sell you unique gameplay or cool animations, and some might try to get your attention with, lore. Others might go a different route and shower you with early game rewards, and this is what Hoyoverse does. When you look at any of the 3 current major Hoyo titles, the new player experience for them is amazing.
It's
no
incredible.
matter where you look, you're getting rewards thrown at you left and right from both the mail, the content offered, and different incentives to get you to keep playing. In Genshin, you have
See, that's why I like games like Monster Hunter, because once you beat the game, that's when the real game starts. Once you beat the game, you just find misery in these gacha games. It's so depressing.
tons of regions to explore, hundreds of quests to do, thousands of achievements to collect, endgame to tackle, events to get caught up in, and
Okay, if you're doing all these achievements, you need God. You need to find God. 30 minutes to get 5 Primo Gems? Congratulations. In 25 hours, you'll have earned 1 pull.
so much more. While Honkai Star Rail is newer and technically has less overall content, it takes that early game generosity further by offering incentives for doing the content. For example, by giving rewards to players like the guaranteed 5-star unit on the beginner warp and bonus rolls at specific account level thresholds. On top of that, old events are permanently available for you to complete at any time, and you can get most of the rewards from them. Zenless Zone Zero is even newer than Star Rail is, yet it still has multiple story chapters to clear, both easy and hard content to do, an absolutely massive amount of events, plus the same quality of life that HSR brought with the beginner banner and permanent events. In all 3 of these titles, there's hundreds upon hundreds of roles available, all right at your fingertips, just waiting for you to collect. You can get multiple of the
Here's the Hoyoverse business strategy. Make a game, make it be good for 1.5 to 2 years, and then make the new game and get everybody to go to the new one. And if anybody complains, just say, well, why don't you try this new game they just made? Yep, we're stuck on this shit for life, boys.
highest rarity units from the free currency offered by these games. That is, assuming you're willing to put in the time to play through all of it, or, you know, you could just get your account managers to do it for you.
The account managers that play his account better than he can. Ooh, greedy and stupid.
That's not even mentioning that both HSR and Genshin had selectors within the last year to pick a standard banner unit from. So all that seems pretty generous, right? Why is the company's goal to just get you in the door? Or in other words, what's the reason behind all the generosity? Well, if you remember, I said they actually have 3 goals that are all connected, and the why is the second goal that Hoyoverse has. Once you're in the door, what comes next? Well, it's getting you to stay. Like, imagine you're a newish player in a Hoyo game. You've gone through the story and the exploration.
You get them in and then say, and in the next patch, this crazy shit is happening. That's how you get them hooked. Dude, I swear, the Fate collab has kept unsatisfied players locked in for like another 4 months. Absolutely.
Content available. You've taken all the generous gifts that Hoyo gives you as you've been building out your account, and you're finally ready to take on the more difficult content the game has to offer. This is where you'd probably start looking at endgame, and then
Trust me, guys, you want to keep playing Genshin Impact. The Genshin anime is coming out any day now. Yeah, dude.
seeing how you can clear it. Do you think you understand the game well enough to attempt it? Do you have the characters you think you need? Are they built well enough? And if so, how much of it can you get through? Well, once you have the answers to all that and just, start trying, you'll undoubtedly be able to clear some of it. That is, until you hit the wall. This is the wall that you'll reach at some point in every gacha you play, but especially so in Hoyoverse games.
I will say, hitting a wall is the best part of these games, in my opinion. I haven't hit a wall in years.
Your units won't be leveled high enough, or you didn't invest enough in your gear, or maybe you got the wrong characters.
Like a wall that actually feels very fair. Because when you hit a wall and all of your characters are maxed, it's like, oh, so I need to spend money right now, don't I? It's so miserable.
Don't have what you need to make any progress. This is where the third goal that Hoyoverse has comes into play. By this point in your account's progress, you've most likely already invested enough time to clear.
Well, that's not true. Woo-Wah made me hit a wall a couple times. and break a controller.
The main content, and you've also probably started thinking about how to clear the more difficult
448
stuff,
limits.
so
That
you've
shit
actually
was
already
awesome.
fallen right into Hoyo's hands. See, their third goal is actually very simple, is to create a wall in the game or a threshold that you can't cross at the current moment in time, and then it's to figure out how to get you across that threshold. Or in short, gyat.
Yep, absolutely.
The idea behind gyat is that Hoyo wants to get you to a point where you're willing to spend something. Like, if you can't clear the content that you want to clear, there's basically 3 roads in front of you. The first path is pretty simple. It takes you down the line where you stop playing the game, because after all, if you can't clear any content, then why would you bother? And obviously, Hoyo wants to avoid you taking that path at all costs. So, Hoyo adds incentives for players to actually want to clear the content, and they do it by offering a chunk of the rewards you get per patch for participating in it. For example, in the current 5.4 Genshin patch, a free-to-play player can get around 60 rolls for doing every single bit of content in the patch. Of those 60 rolls, 15 of them come from full clearing both of the endgames that are available.
money!
If 25% of your rolls come from clearing content, then you know that players have a very, very large incentive to actually attempt to do it. The thing to note with these endgame content rotations is that they follow a strict schedule. What this means is that in every patch, there's essentially an allocated amount of pulls set for the story, events, and other stuff like that, whereas you'll always get roughly the same amount of pull currency from endgame content, assuming you can clear it. This means that the actual amount of pulls that you're intended to get in the 5.4 patch is 45 and not 60, which makes those extra 15 all the more important. After all, 45 pulls is just a little bit over half of what you need to hit soft pity on a 5-star. Very sneaky, Hoyo. So all that brings us to path 2, which is spending your time. If you can't clear now, well, just log in every day and do your daily, spend your resin, do all the events, upgrade your gear, and do everything else that comes with these kinds of games. If you commit your life to the game, you'll certainly be able to clear in the future. Hoyo demands a significant amount of effort from you to get all the rewards that they dangle in front of you. The worst thing is that it feels like you barely have enough time to complete everything. In Genshin, events are too short. For example, the Lantern Rite celebrations only lasted for 2 weeks, and in ZZZ, we get so many events that it can honestly kind of get a little overwhelming. I guess there's never...
Dude, I'm gonna be real. ZZZ, I 100% agree. This shit has too many events. It is way too much. It is fucking overwhelming. It's like 50 events every damn patch.
A lot going on in HSR, but that's a whole different issue. Honestly, there's usually enough stuff going on that it feels like Hoyo would do anything to keep us from cheating on them with other games, except for actually treating their players well.
True.
And this brings us to path 3.
Who is this guy? Jesus, this is a good video. What the fuck?
Where it gets even more insidious, because this is the route where you spend money. If you don't have enough gear or characters leveled to clear right now, well, there's this funny little button you can press to refresh your daily stamina and farm
The best button ever made.
more. Don't have the right
It
units
makes
to be able
all
to
your
clear
problems in the video game go away, but now you got problems in real life. And now that your real life is miserable, well, just ignore it and play more games.
like maybe you're missing a support for your DPS or vice versa. Well, Hoyo's going to make absolutely sure that the wish button will be on your screen at all points during gameplay, and they'll
Absolutely.
also ensure
That's
that the
how you
shop
win.
button is available every single time you open the wish screen. You know,
That's how you win.
just in case, right? So you've gone down path 2 or 3, and now you're in. You've fallen for their trap, and you're across the threshold of no return.
And now you spent $100. Well, I can't quit. I spent $100 on this. I don't want to waste it.
You've invested your time or your money, so you should get something out of it, right? Well, unfortunately, you got hooked, line and sinker, and now
Yes,
you're in it for the
sir.
long haul. You just don't realize it yet. At this point, all of your free resources are gone and dried up, apart from what they ever so generously give you each patch. But you can be damn sure that they'll make it seem like you're getting a whole lot more. One tactic that companies use to not only get players in the door, but also to increase potential earnings is by going hard on marketing. Sensor Tower reported that between Q2 of 2023 and Q1 of 2024, which coincidentally was the first year of Honkai Star's release, Hoyoverse invested nearly $300 million into digital marketing for their games, which was over a 487% jump compared to the previous year where they spent less than $100 million advertising Genshin and their previous titles. They advertise their games everywhere. They're on media sites like YouTube, Twitch, Bilibili, and so on. Like, if you're watching gaming-related videos,
all that money they spent, that's you. That's you in the photo. Yep. You're in that picture and you don't like it.
Videos without an ad blocker, you can't go more than a few videos without seeing an ad for at least one of their games. I mean,
True.
I'm sure we've all seen the Natasha ad video at least once while browsing around, right?
I'm Natasha, an underworld doctor. Feeling sick?
There's also
Anybody seen my Go-Go Muffin ad? That shit's everywhere on social media right now.
sponsored videos, streams, and events where they go out of their way to show new people the game and try to encourage them to play it themselves. Like ZZZ sponsored EVO, and even more crazy, HSR sponsored the broadcast of the Olympics on NBC.
That's because ZZZ is a fighting game.
But it's not just digital marketing, because they also do a lot of events to try and build their community. For example, they host events like Hoyoverse, and they do annual streams for both regular patches as well as bigger events that are themed after the new region for patch cycle changes with their major games. On top of all of that, they do concerts, collabs, pop-up events. They're extremely active on various social media sites like Twitter and the like, and they show up at major events like Anime Expo, Anime NYC, Gamescom, the Game Awards, the Tokyo Game Show, and a ton of others. Outside of IRL marketing, another point that's very important to note here is that Hoyo markets the characters they release as content for their respective games. games. There's a reason that almost every time a new character is released, the ads for the game get updated to reflect that. They want you to always be seeing the new stuff because if it gets you excited to log in, then that's a +1 on their player retention count. Even if you're someone that stopped playing at some point, all it may take is one super hot character and then you're right back into their clutches again. FOMO comes into pretty big play here as well. Remember that every time
super hot or meta-defining.
A character is on banner and pullable, they're only there for a limited time.
How many seasons are catching strays in this video? A lot right now. A fucking lot. And I think they're all deserved.
When they're gone, until whenever Hoyo decides it's time to pull them out of the basement again. This can result in a wait for a character being upwards of close to 2 years. Looking at you, Shinha. Besides feeling like you've missed out, it basically means that you won't have a whole lot to do if you don't end up getting any characters in the patch you're playing, especially if there's no explorable content to hold you over. And all this does is further—
the worst thought you could ever have, oh, I gotta make sure I don't miss this character, because what if they fix the game? That's what I'm currently struggling with Tribby. I am. Even though I think it is so cooked with Castros, I'm still thinking, well, what if I don't get her and they take the passive out? Oh, bro, it's so bad.
They're incentivized players to go for things that they might not necessarily want. This all allows Hoyo to actually take a pretty lazy approach to the actual content they release for their game, because if the character is the content, then what incentive does Hoyo have to actually create anything aside from that? I mean, hell, I know firsthand a few people that log into ZZZ on a daily basis just to walk around as their favorite character in that game. And Hoyo knows this. They heavily
They're not just walking around, they're masturbating vigorously to the models.
Market their characters through different trailers and teasers, which just promotes the idea that you can get invested in the characters themselves rather than whatever content and story you have available to actually play with them. While there might not always be something exciting going on in the game, they'll always make it seem like there's something to get invested into surrounding the game. If it's not the current character, it's the next. If it's not one game, it's another. And this is all part of their trap. They want you to always be thinking about their games because once you're in,
you're here forever.
So now you're in for the long haul. What next? Well, to explain, let me walk you through a scenario from my own life. It might seem unrelated, but just trust me. All the way back in 2014 when I built my first gaming computer, my friend and I decided to go with a Corsair power supply for it, and I've even still got the email of that. That power supply did end up having issues when I first got it, but not only did Corsair give me a replacement, they also gave me an upgrade to the 850i from the 750 that I previously had. And believe it or not, that upgraded power supply is still going strong in my current computer over 11 years later.
Wow.
So you might be wondering why I'm talking about old computers and power supplies. Well, it's because as a result of this scenario, I now recommend Corsair equipment as a whole to friends, to family, and others who I built PCs for in the past. As a result of the good interaction I had with Corsair customer support and the power supply that has lasted me over 11 years, I have some trust in their parts and some faith that their company will do right by me as a consumer. Whenever I buy PC parts now, I'm always on the lookout for Corsair parts first because I developed a sense of loyalty over time towards their products before any others. How this relates to Hoyo is that every single thing Hoyo does is under the motive of them creating that same sense of loyalty. They want us as the players to think positively of them, and they do this through everything discussed so far. Being generous early on into our playthroughs, giving out freebies like standard banner characters, and the rare example of Dr. Ratio that HSR got are all examples of them trying to get you invested in them. And that's not even mentioning the asinine amount of marketing that they do so their products are always on your mind. The more positively you feel about them, the more likely you are to get interested whenever they do different things like events or launch new games like HSR and ZZZ. What this does is it brings you into their ecosystem. Just like how I use and recommend Corsair computer parts, someone that likes Hoyo games will be just as likely to do the same with Hoyo products. For example, a lot of people tried HSR simply because it was a Hoyoverse game, while Hoyo undoubtedly spent an absolute ton of
Star Rail breaking sales records is because of the fact that it was related to Genshin Impact. Absolutely. I talked a lot about this a lot on launch.
money and marketing on top of building that loyal.
I am very shocked that another creator is aware of this. I felt very alone in this ideology. This feels very good. This guy is very smart. I like this guy a lot. FL2Ur. Very smart guy.
From their older games like Genshin, there's no denying that a good chunk of the success the game had is from people that already.
This video has been stating the obvious for 20 minutes. Yeah, that you guys know. The only reason why you guys know that is because you watch me and because you're not a child and you're aware of scummy business practices because I yap and we yap about it 24/7. I promise you, if you were to play this in Ziox and Doro's chat, they would say, oh, I never really thought about it that way.
He wanted more from Hoyo. Something to keep in mind here though is that in comparison to my scenario with Corsair, the Hoyoverse ecosystem isn't all roses because you have to look at the context surrounding it. Like, Corsair gaining a loyal customer by having good customer support isn't something particularly insidious. They just wanted me to think of them first when I bought computer parts going forward. On the other hand, Hoyo's goal isn't just to get you in the door, it's to keep you gambling and spending more and more and more every single time you play one of their games. Like, for example, if you buy merch of your favorite Genshin character at an event, is it a good product? Sure, the quality is probably really nice, and you wouldn't have gotten it if you didn't want it, right? But it only serves the purpose of getting you more invested into whatever character you bought that merch of, and therefore
Hoyoverse themselves sent me a giant stuffed animal of Tartaglia. I got it on stream. It was directly sent by the company to me. I gave it away. Yep, there was an autistic girl that really loved Genshin Impact. So I gave it to her, and she cried. No, not the autistic girl you're all thinking of. Actually a different autistic girl. They cried. They cried when they got it.
For Hoyo as a whole. Whenever you see that merch at home, you'll always be reminded of where it comes from. So what happens the next time that character is on a rate up in your favorite gacha
Sophia's not autistic.
game? Seeing that merch every single day would probably incentivize you to roll for more copies, or maybe you'll get their weapon if you don't already have it. After all, they're your favorite, right? Maybe you're not a merch person and you're just a hardcore gacha gamer, always on the lookout for the new hot game. If you're already playing Genshin and Hoyo releases the new hot game Honkai Star Rail, you're probably going to start playing that one too. Now, you're not only in the Genshin space, but the Star Rail one as well. There's more chances to find characters you like, more stories to get invested in, new generous content to play since the game has just started, and most importantly for Hoyo, more chances for you as the consumer to pull out your wallet and swipe just a little bit to get you started. So now we're at the part where I get to tell you why this is all a problem. You know, apart from the obvious point of saying,
I would find it very shocking if somebody doesn't get why this is a problem yet. But I guess we'll keep going. I'd be very shocked when I was watching this video and they go, seems fine to me.
it's a gacha, of course it's a problem. You might have read the title of this part of the video and been a little bit confused because the traditional way that saying goes is actually the opposite. With Hoyo games though, it's just not like that. See, something Hoyo's been doing for years now is always making it seem like the next thing is going to be better than what we have now, even when that isn't always the case. I mean, that's all the marketing that we've been talking about. To be at least a little bit fair here, they do actually have patches in their games where it seems like things are good. But something worth noting here is that those good things come with a cost. First, we can take a look at a specific example from one of their games, and the easiest one to bring up is Genshin.
The first hit is always free. Drug dealers use the same business model. Yep, Jersky, it's very true. That's how they get you hooked, and they know that you'll come back to their supply. Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys have ever looked at the pull tracker for Genshin, but there's two patterns in there related to specific times of the year. Did you notice it? If you didn't, it's the specific patches that offer a lot of rewards, with the following patches having a big drop-off, and here's the points where that happens. Don't recognize anything special about those patches? Well, those are both the Chinese New Year patches as well as the anniversary patches. Both of these are meant to be a time where you get to celebrate, right? Like another year has passed and the game is still going strong. So us as players deserve to be showered with rewards and have a great time. To be fair to Hoyo, it generally is a great time. We get a lot of rewards as big events going on IRL and a ton of other things. But then the end of the patch happens. Now, going into the next patch, what are we greeted with? A hell of a lot less rewards. Seems weird, right? Well, not really if you think about it in terms of balancing. Hoyo's goal isn't actually to reward us at these times of the year, it's just to make it seem like they are. If we get anything extra, they'll be sure to withhold that from the next patch's rewards to keep the average the same. If we get 100 pulls on an anniversary patch and only 50 the next, then the average amount of pulls between the two patches is actually only 75. Doesn't seem too generous now, don't you think? Looking past just the rewards, we can look at the other things like quality of life and also the recently announced potential buffs for characters in HSR. These are things that Hoyo can do at any time, but they hold it above our heads like a cookie jar while saying, "No, not until I say you can have it." Even on the rare occasions that we do get those things, there's always something at play that makes it not as simple as it seems. Like for the buffing system in HSR, don't get me wrong, I can't help but be at least a little bit excited by the prospect of being able to use my old characters again.
Don't be. The buffs are so mid. If you're expecting old buff characters to be used, you're going to be severely disappointed. They look beyond mid.
As per usual with Hoyo though, this all comes with a caveat of context. Every character released in that game is almost always guaranteed to be stronger than the last one is. So for example, if their character Blade gets buffed whenever they implement the system, it's only a matter of time before he becomes a dumpster tier character again as stronger and stronger characters are released after him.
Really? Do we already know? Yes, we already know. They look incredibly underwhelming. They're just like, oh, well now they scale a little bit more. That's it.
Unless they actually implement the system properly, this quality feature really isn't all that impressive. For more general quality of life stuff, it can take years to implement, and even if we do get it, it's always done with a Hoyoverse twist. I mean, how long have we been asking for gear loadouts in Hoyo games, only to get these awful auto-equip systems instead? How long have we been asking to farm stuff like talent books and weapon materials in Genshin, only for them to put out a survey asking us if that's—
We don't have any info? No, you guys don't have any info. I do. Yeah, unfortunately, me and you are different because I have access to people that y'all don't have access to. I promise you that buffs are very mediocre.
Something that we really want. Hell, even Wuthering Waves added loadouts recently. Talk about Genshin could never. These are tactics that Hoyo pulls across
Source, no way. Go ask him.
All of their games, from big events and anniversaries to quality of life, but it doesn't stop there, because they also do this when they release new games. Remember, they've built an ecosystem that we're all trapped in. So what this means is that not only do we get screwed by the things previously mentioned—
Proof? Not me to ask. Go ask Dway. He'll prove it. Absolutely. Go ask him. You can't? I know.
we also get screwed whenever they launch their next title. And you could see this when both HSR and ZZZ released. HSR released on April 26th of 2023. What was going on in Genshin at the time, you might ask? Version 3.6, where they were running rerun banners. While reruns are nice, it's pretty undeniable to say that they don't sell super well, nor do they make the vast majority of the community super excited to log in
I think a rerun has only sold well one time, and that was Raiden Shogun.
and play. Apart from those reruns, we did actually have a small region release to explore, but not only was its entire purpose to put a bow on the Sumeru Desert exploration, but it was also the third desert region released in a row, resulting in not not that many people being actually super excited for it. In other words,
Wow,
it was basically
dirt!
a major filler patch where people were looking for something else to do. So what did Hoyoverse ever
Wow.
so generously offer for players to do instead? Play their new game, of course, Honkai Star Rail, a new and exciting space fantasy RPG where everything is new and fresh and exciting, rather than
Do y'all remember how dead Genshin was when Honkai Star Rail released? And then do y'all remember how dead Honkai Star Rail was when they had everything going back on in Genshin again? It's by design, guys. It's by design. They know what they're doing.
then just stick to the same old desert that we've been exploring for the past 6 months. This then repeated in Honkai Star Rail when Hoyoverse's next game launched, Zenless Zone Zero. ZZZ released on July 4th of 2024. What was going on in HSR at the time? The end of 2.3, where there was absolutely nothing to do after you pulled Firefly and did a tiny bit of story. I remember that patch vividly, because for 4 weeks straight after pulled Firefly and did a tiny bit of story. I remember that patch
Oh my god, they made Kalis look like such a bitch getting carried like a little girl by Firefly. Oh my god, I cannot believe they did that to my man.
vividly, because for 4 weeks straight after finishing that story, the only thing I had to do in that game was log in, spend my daily stamina, and then ult
Hell
for the
no.
game. It says something when
Hell
that patch
no.
had 5 events total, 2 of which were freebie rewards, and 2 of which were simply events, where you got double the amount of resources for spending your stamina. So since there was absolutely nothing going on in HSR, what could you do? Once again, Hoyo ever so generously swooped in and launched their new game, Zenless Zone Zero. Everything that Hoyoverse does has a cost. While it may seem like things are getting better, it usually ends up worse soon after. And that's the cost that we as the players of their games feel. Whether it's
I still will say, I love what Zenless Zone Zero is. It is just a absolute goon factory. This is Hoyoverse's Overwatch.
for rewards, simple quality of life features, or game releases, they always try to screw us in some way, and it's for one reason. Hoyoverse doesn't see us as anything more than a walking wallet.
What are you?
Alright, congrats. You've either made it this far in the video, or you just skipped directly to the section, so welcome in if you did that. Apologies if I get a bit heated in this section, but this is something important to me, and also something that I'm just passionate about. Over the years, it's become obvious that Hoyo is only interested in their long con. Their goal isn't to create a good experience, it's just to make it feel like what we're getting is actually worth something. They go out of their way to get as many people as possible to play their games, and then structure the first few patches of them to secure us as loyal customers. After that point, they just want to keep us in a revolving door throughout their variety of games. If you don't have anything to do in one game,
I think the biggest issue with Hoyoverse right now is what people are calling a blessing, which is they're getting away with making drier spells in their games artificially by saying, well, if you don't like this, go check out our other games. But the problem is when you're not in the loop, it feels fucking terrible. It does. Like, I'm in the HSR ZZZ loop, and it feels fucking awful because I can tell the patches where I'm supposed to go play Genshin to feel good and get that hit of dopamine again, but I don't, and it feels terrible. And now I might go down to just ZZZ, and it feels fucking bad.
you can be sure the others will have stuff going on to spend your time and, more importantly, your money in. I mean, who needs real content when the next limited character can be shoved down their throat every other week across all their games? Like, everything I've talked about in this video is evidence that showcases Hoyo doesn't really give a shit about us, they're just interested in whatever they can get out of our pockets for the lowest possible amount of effort from them. And what that
ZZ's actually good. ZZZ's all right now. It had a good patch for 1.4, but even still, like, playing ZZZ on a day-to-day, I have no desire to do so. Like, it's alright. You know what I mean? Like, it's not anything crazy. Like, it's still a good game, but, like, it ain't what you gassing it up to be. Like, the Bang Boo Fall Guys event, pretty fun. The combat's pretty fun, but the loop really ain't it for me. Like, I would say the most perfect complete gacha right now is Wuwa, right? Limbus Company is also really fun. That's another game that I actually think about. Yeah, ZZZ definitely has an issue where I stress out about it a lot because it has a lot of fuck it whatever events that just like aren't really that fun. That tower defense one was pretty fucking, it was kind of a slog, I'm not gonna lie. It was kind of a slog.
means is that whatever
But how Wuwa is different, it's the same loop. Okay, so, all right. So I want to make this very clear. You're saying that the gameplay loop of Wuthering Waves is the same gameplay loop of ZZZ. If that's your opinion, I really don't see any reason to actually continue a conversation with you. And I think other content creators should be ashamed of explaining themselves to people like you who just cannot understand the basic principle of such an absurd thing to even say to remotely insinuate that the gameplay loop of Wuwa and Wuthering Waves are the same. That's fucking psychotic. The only similarity that Wuwa has with ZZZ is the basis of what their combat set out to be. Every other aspect of the game is completely different. I am shocked by such an abhorrent take coming out of your mouth, being presented in such an objective, factual manner. It is shocking that you would say that. That took me back once again. Holy shit. Anyways.
Whatever we get from them is basically just the leftover scraps off their dinner table.
You dumb
Hoyo
as
knows
fuck,
that
bro.
we're willing
You
to
are actually
overlook
dumb
things
as
like the
fuck.
missing quality of life, the lack of real content, and the insane amount of time it takes to fix any problems the games have if they stuff us full of rewards early on and try to essentially love bomb us whenever we get upset. By the time the excitement of a new game release wears off and all we've got is a leftover garbage, they can...
Dude, love bombing works on me so hard. I remember I was in this relationship for so fucking long. And I was trying to get out. I was trying to get out. And this person wouldn't show me any affection, any emotion, any appreciation the whole fucking time. But every single time I said, I had enough, I'm good, let me leave. Like, oh, no, I love you, you're my everything. And it's like, oh my God. All right. Like, fuck, it was so miserable, bro.
get away with doing the bare minimum, but by that point, their hope is that we're in way too deep to notice. Unfortunately for Hoyo, their con is very, very noticeable at this point. The small bits of quality of life and the generosity that they try to feed us just doesn't cut it anymore. The revolving door is getting old at this point. The lack of quality of life is getting old at this point. Our characters standing in a circle for 90% of the story in their games is getting old at this point.
I want to really highlight this real quick. So ZZZ was probably the biggest overhaul of any Hoyoverse game we ever got. And what they did was, for their update, was they removed as much TVs as possible, let us choose which characters we can walk in the town, and make the alt gauge charge on every character rather than just one. That's the biggest overhaul a Hoyo game has ever got. Should we talk about Wuthering Waves 2.0? Should we talk about it? Because then what Wuthering Waves did was add in the greatest traversal system in any game whatsoever, completely modernizing the exploration techniques for free, as well as giving us increased graphics universally on the entire game, as well as rebalancing the combat to be even more smooth and fluid with the new type of enemies that we're going to fight in the new zone, as well as upgrading all of the music, upgrading all of the zones, giving us cohesive accents with the areas that we're in to add other layers of immersion with new traversal systems, new events. You know what I'm saying? Like, I glaze woo-wah so fucking hard. But the thing is that glazing woo-wah is by merely saying what it has done. Because if you just say what the company has done for its players, it sounds like you're glazing it. And I think that's a great problem to have. When you merely state the truth and you're like, oh, bro, you're sucking its dick. No, bro, I'm just reading factual document out loud.
Complete and utter disregard for the community's wants and needs is especially getting old. And that's not even mentioning their blatant and prominent greed that is showcased across all of their games except for ZZZ for now. And I specify for now because the fun times that these games have are only temporary. It's a matter of time before their next game launches, and by that point, it'll be ZZZ on the chopping block. It is just such a shame that this company is using this awful business model and these terrible practices to make things worse and worse and worse as time goes on. Because if you look past the bullshit that Hoyo pulls to try to keep us invested in their games, there's actually some good stuff underneath. But it just doesn't matter when you have to look past the hundreds of problems that these games have just to see it. Like, I love these games. I have logged into Genshin every single day since that game launched. I did the same for HSR,
and people are still going to call him a hater. Nope. These are the people who care about the game the most. Yep. And they'll be villainized the most too.
ZZZ too. I've been a loyal player because for a long time, it felt worth it to me. But I just can't feel that way anymore with the current state of their games. Honestly, they never really did enough to deserve our loyalty to begin with, which is why it's so important that we both recognize and speak up about these terrible practices that Hoyo follows. If we don't advocate for these games and this company to be better, then all we'll have is whatever bait Hoyo dangles in front of us to keep us here. If we stay in their revolving door, it won't matter when players quit one of their games because they'll have the next piece of bait ready.
Yeah, I'm part of the problem because if Hoyo releases a new game, I'm 100% going to play it. Especially if it's Animal Crossing. Yep, it's a problem that'll never go away. COVID got me, man. COVID got me 100%.
Mention to HSR, from HSR to ZZZ. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me a third time, and I'll make an entire YouTube channel to complain about your company.
Hey, that's what I did! Hey, that's what I did, dude.
As this video ends here, I just want to say thank you so much.
Now I get more viewers than the people who actually play the game get. Yeah, it feels great, dude. That's my demographic. People who loved Genshin and now fucking hate it, and now they come to me because they're like, oh, fuck, he's right. Great fucking video, man. Dude, I need to get that guy on the podcast. What a well-spoken individual.